Today we're going to take a lurch away from that and talk about placemaking, and I think we'll get our presentation up there. But you already got a presentation introduction from me. I do lots of different things, wear lots of different hats, and one of the things I've been working on for several years is with the Greater Victoria Placemaking Network. And I'll talk about placemaking today, little free libraries, and then if there's time, road murals. I think we're just going to talk about little free libraries because I could talk about them until the cows come home. We do have our tiny, smallest little free library in town here. Please come up and take a book if you see one that particularly suits your interests. And of course, they're all free, they're little free libraries. Let's talk about placemaking. So has anyone here heard the term placemaking before? Getting a couple hands up, excellent, a couple shaking the heads. Placemaking is transforming public spaces. It's people stepping up and softening the hard edges of the cities they live in. It's creating bumping spaces. Spaces in our communities where people can connect and meet, kind of like this, but just out in public. And the thing I love about them is it's people coming together to transform their communities to make them more human. And it's so important. It's not just adding, this is actually the ribbon cutting on the 600th Little Free Library in town. We've come a long way. We're going to work on our, hopefully, how are we doing for slides? There's lots of pictures. This is the exciting part. In case my enthusiasm doesn't work out, pictures hopefully will. Oh. Anyways, I'll keep going while we work through that, because there's a lot of content. Basically, we're social animals, as you all know, and human connection is really important, but there's a loneliness problem. Theresa May, for her many sins, created the Minister of Loneliness in the UK when she was Prime Minister. Research from the Vancouver Foundation found that 1/4 of residents in Vancouver felt socially isolated, and 1 in 7 felt lonely. That's a problem. Loneliness isn't just something that makes us unhappy, it's something that physically impacts our health. It's the equivalent of smoking a pack a day or being obese. Like, this is not healthy for us. We need human connectivity. So the public spaces that we create that foster connectivity are so important. So the Placemaking Network is all about placemaking. It's inspiring people and communities to create vibrant public spaces that promote health, happiness, and well-being. Placemaking takes tons of forms. This is some of the work that we do. I was on the board. I had to step down when I became a city councillor because of, obvious reasons, but I'm still active. We do tons of work, and placemaking can be a lot of different things. You've got examples of temporary bike lanes, parklets, temporary pop-up things to permanent transformations. There's going to be a ton of examples here. Here we go. So here's an example of an alleyway that has undertaken placemaking. It went from a place where you might shoot a Hollywood thriller to a place where you might grab a cup of coffee with your friends. And that's the kind of urban transformation we want to see through placemaking. And there's so many more examples. Here's an example from Seattle. Again, sort of streetscape. You're going to walk through there. But in the bottom example, you might stop and talk to a neighbor and create that human connectivity that is the foundation for community. And here's some examples from Victoria. So you've got some parklets. This is one of my favorite ones, yarn bombing, very popular in the UK. I know we have some folks here who spent some time there as well. That's a cozy treat. Another parklet in Victoria. Keep them coming, this is great. Murals, we've got some around the corner. I think this one is over in pole painting. BC Hydro is not a big fan, but we still do it anyways. Some temporary structures that we have. And it can be little things like fairy gardens, or little doors on your trees, or wishing trees. Little ways that just say, add whimsy and happiness to the urban landscape. A soup garden, of course, one of my personal favorites, right? Who doesn't love soup? Giant board games is something I'm trying to do in town here, but it's a bit more difficult to get going. This is an example down in Niagara Grocery where you've got a sitting space, little free library, bulletin boards, and one of my favorite things that I love is little free libraries. So we're going to talk about the Pocket Places project. And I've had the pleasure of leading this project since 2017, and as you heard, we now have 1,000 little free libraries in town. We had our celebration 2 weekends ago, and it was absolutely fantastic. We had children, we had the superheroes of Victoria. I'll show you some pictures later on, but it was an amazing celebration. And you're going to see some examples of little free libraries from around town. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they operate on the principle of give a book, take a book. And the thing I love about them is they're a little form of placemaking, but you also get a party favor. You get to take a book home. And then when you read that book, you remember where you found it. And you think back to the street and the place. And if you really love the book, it stays on your shelf for a while or forever. And if you don't like it so much, you bring it back. And it cycles back through the community. And I have so many fun stories about little free libraries. So we can slow these ones down a little bit. There's a lot of good pictures here. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I've always described them as coral reefs for community. Because they're often less about books and more about creating human connection. right? There's a bunch of books in this little library. Joy already found one that was named after her, so that was excellent. But the chances of you finding the perfect book, or the third book in the series that you're trying to complete, it's low. I've been looking for book 3 of House of Cards for 9 years, still haven't found it. But the chances of you bumping into a neighbor that you can connect with is almost 100%. And the conversations that you have at Little Free Libraries are different than the ones that you have, say, waiting for a bus, or waiting in line to buy your groceries. You know, who hasn't had the, oh, strange weather we're getting here, or how about those Blue Jays? Although, to be fair, that's a good example from earlier. But at the same time, human connection around books is so intimate and at the same time approachable. What are you reading is an open question, but it also invites someone to share something very private about themselves, something that they're currently exploring, a book that they're currently grappling with, new ideas that they're exploring. So it creates the basis for community. One of my favorite examples is my Little Free Library is in Rutledge Park, and it had a Twitter account before that platform was taken over by fascists. And I would tweet its books out daily. And one of my here we go. Here's some of the diversity of Little Free Libraries. Let's pause and listen for a few seconds. And I would tweet out the books every day. And one of my neighbors tweeted back, "I'm dropping off some comic books." And I love comic books. So I ran down there and met her. I still don't know her actual name. It's Amy Alligator on social media. And we're friends now. I was at her New Year's party a couple years later. We got her a Little Free Library. And it created a connection. It was just starting around Coral Reef that is a Little Free Library. So the Pocket Places project, which I helped lead, has 4 main goals. We map, stock, build, and promote Little Free Libraries. And I'm going to do the 4th one here today. Around town, actually skip to the next slide, please, my friend. Here we go, keep cycling for a little bit. So here around town, we started the project in 2017 when there's 111 Little Free Libraries around town. And here you can see all 1,000 mapped out. This is incredibly unhelpful because it's very zoomed in. But if we go to the next slide, you can see a bit more zoomed in area. There's still a lot. 1,000 is a ton. Like when we first started this project, my partner and I were like, okay, let's get 150 for Canada's 150th. There was 111, it was the same year, and we cut the ribbon on the 150th on December 17th of that year. So we made it. And she turns to me and she's like, I guess, are we done? Nah, let's keep going. And now we have 1,000, and it's kind of mind-boggling. And when I say they come in all shapes and sizes, they also don't just help share books. So let's add a layer. We've added to our map over the years. If you're interested, search Little Free Library, Victoria. You can find the full map. I update it every few weeks. And we've added now Little Free Libraries for plants and seeds, which you can see here in green. The pink ones are for board games and puzzles. The brown ones are for art and art supplies, and we have to have 10 in a category before I add a new color, otherwise the map will become kind of bonkers. So we also have, I've got the numbers here, I've got 943 for books, 31 for plants and seeds, 25 for puzzles and board games, 13 for art and art supplies, 8 little food pantries, we've got 6 for yarn. Are there any knitters out there? Tough crowd, okay, well there's a couple knitters out there. You're crocheters, I'm so sorry. The crochet knitting communities often have some concerns there. We've got 6 for toys and household items, and 3 for dog, pet supplies, and sticks. And they also have those ones are really fun. Yeah, it's not just a pile of sticks, it's a little bin with a little roof, it's adorable. And each little library specializes in different things. This is one I build with my friend Charles every year. It's made out of a pumpkin. Right. It's our secret Halloween one that we distribute books to kids, which is always quite fun. There's Little Free Libraries that specialize in poetry, in kids' books, in French books, in magazines, and DVDs, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they reflect the character of the community. You can learn a lot about your neighbors when you sort of see what kind of books they drop off and which books they maybe like to collect a little bit. Someone keeps dropping off large print Louis L'Amours in a couple libraries down in Fernwood, and I help spread them around just to share the love a little bit. Our project has also dropped, so we've dropped off over 130,000 books to Little Free Libraries in the region since 2017. I usually go around with a bike trailer, you saw it a couple pictures ago, but we've also dropped off other things. We've distributed chalk during the pandemic so people could go out and decorate their neighborhoods. We've done bookmarks promoting literacy and a whole bunch of other things. A friend of mine is just launching a new book next week, and we're launching bookmarks for him to help promote local authors. We've got books. This is a great book about urbanism. If you want to know more about how the way our city is designed and how that shapes community, this is a fantastic book by a Canadian author. We've got face masks during the pandemic. Little free libraries are both collective and community building, but they can also help spread important messages like this little one down near Haltane. We dropped off 921 copies of the calls for the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We had a fundraising campaign a couple of years ago, little smaller books, and that was another really important thing that we were doing, trying to connect little free libraries to important information, critically reconciliation. We also, this is one of my favorite ones, we did the calls to action and we realized that they were not particularly accessible to young people, so we fundraised more money and I got to call up one of my friends and say, hey, can we buy $1,000 of your children's book about reconciliation? And that was a really fun moment because she drove over to my house with a box of books immediately and we got to drop them off to little libraries around the community. And this is a fun one. So, some people mentioned grandkids. Little free libraries are fantastic, but sometimes you find the same books over and over again. My friend John down in Fernwood was annoyed that he found the same Judy Picotte and James Pattison books every single day. I don't know how James Pattison does it, but you're going to find a James Pattison book in a little free library. Not this one, of course. And so rather than being disappointed about finding some of the more common books in little libraries, he decided to invent Little Free Library Bingo, where you basically have a card, you visit the little library, and you look for a book with a blue spine, or a book by a local author, or any other number of categories. And we actually worked with some students to design a Little Free Library bingo card generator so that you can play against your friends and try to get the first line or blackout or cross or whatever you like. It took me 36 Little Free Libraries to get a blackout because I could not find a copy of the Yaya Sisterhood Traveling Pants series to save my life. It's not as popular as we thought. But we have children's versions, we have adult versions. If you're looking for a fun activity to get out into the community, do please just try Little Free Library Bingo. And of course, there's always a prize, free books, which is always excellent. We've done other things, so for Free Comic Book Day, we've partnered with the Superheroes of Victoria and gave out free comic books. Batman, of course, is promoting literacy. This is one of my favorite Little Free Libraries down in Fernwood. Just, it's got that iconic, who knows the artist's style? It's more it's kind of classic cartoony, but it's all, I was thinking more like Luxembourg. Yeah, Lichtenstein, thank you, that's what I was looking for. Luxembourg, Lichtenstein, thank you. Yes, there we go, we got some modern art friends here. This is my friend Lauren, whose book is launching next week, and we're dropping off golden bookmarks. So if you visit a local little library, and we're in my bailiwick here, so it's possible you'll find one of these. If you find a bookmark with golden tokens, you get a free copy of his book. And it's a great way of getting people into the community and of celebrating literacy and promoting local authors. We also have Little Free Libraries that specialize in just sharing a poem for the day, which is a delightful way of just making the world a better place. There's one down here on 5th, actually, just around the corner, which only has enough space for one book, and it just shares one poetry book a day. And then there's little libraries. Here's an example of the little library for board games down in Esquimalt. Plants and seeds, I'm very happy about those. Those are great. I mean, we all have way too many seeds. One thing you can do, if you're looking for something to do to help our Little Free Library network, we have tons of books. Please help keep your local library topped up. But seeds, if you're a seed saver or you have a couple extra starts next year, drop them off to Little Free Libraries for plants. They just, for some reason, it's harder to keep them stocked. Possibly because sometimes the seeds germinate in our climate. But we're having a conversation right now about how to get more seeds into our Little Free seed libraries. And then there's art and art galleries. This one is one of my favorites. It's a little tiny miniature vernissage. It has a green roof, and they change the art on a regular basis. And it's just a way of sharing tiny art with the world. And this is an art box that shares art supplies. So if you have way too many craft supplies, or you're just not that into knitting, or if you're just really no longer into giclée printing, you can drop off your materials there. And then something I'm trying to get started here is Little Free menstrual product boxes to help fight menstrual period poverty. We don't have one in town just yet, but I'm planting the seed for folks who might be interested. And so a couple things that we do as the Pocket Places project. So I started this project, basically I was cycling to work in Oak Bay every day, I was teaching at a school, and I'd take a different route to get to know the city, I was new to town, and I started noticing Little Free libraries everywhere. And I looked online and there was a map, there was like 16 mapped out. I reached out to the Placemaking Network and said, I know a bunch of little libraries that aren't on your map. And so they said, well, do you want to just take on the project? And so we launched the Pocket Places project through that. And we started by, my partner and I just basically started by crowdsourcing all the locations. We just asked people to find them for us, cycling around town, and we started by adding 111 to the map. And then we started building them. Now, with my introduction, there was a suggestion that I know how to build little free libraries. I'm an academic, and the problem we have is the Venn diagram of people who want a little library and people who know how to build stuff. There's not a lot of overlap there, right? So my solution is to find amazing people to build them for me, and I give them out to the world. But also, old newspaper boxes. These things could get run over by a truck, and some of them have. And you just paint them up and stick them out, and they become the perfect little free library. So if you see a little free library in town that's an old newspaper box, that's one of ours. We filled the truck from the Times Colonist. There were still a few quarters in the machines, and folks paint them up, send them off into the world, and add joy. Yeah, there's my friend Jim's truck. We had a fun time with those. It's a very interesting experience. My favorite story for that is Adam Creek, one of our local Olympic gold medalists, has one, and usually it takes 2 people to move them, but when it comes to an Olympic athlete, he just lifts it up and puts it in the back of his truck, and I was very impressed. And here's some examples of how those sort of, orange and green was not the best color for the Times Colonist. Don't tell them I said that. I do rely on them sometimes as a politician. But you can see the transformation here of how cute and how fun and delightful they can become. And so when you have a little library, this is some stuff that you folks can do in your communities. If you have one, please, well, thank you, by the way. Anyone here have a little library in front of their house?
Soon.
Soon, excellent. See me after class.
Ours is just in our building, but it's not an official free library.
If it's in someone's building, we don't advertise. We don't have people walking through your laundry room in the middle. Members of the public, wandering through your laundry room. A lot of people do that though, and that's great. If you need books, let me know. We can get you on the book email list. But when you have a little free library, there's things you can do to animate it, to add joy, and to add sort of vivacity and whimsy to the landscape. This is our little library's first iteration in Rutledge Park, and so for Pride Week, we would celebrate by adding flags and Pride-themed books. We've also done things for Remembrance Day, where we put books that are relating to Canadian conflict and to history, and obviously our poppies. And there's a whole bunch of other things that people can do, and people do. I keep finding people's art projects or little creative pieces in different little free libraries around town, and it always fills me with delight. This is our 1,000th Little Free Library celebration. We just had it on September 20th. We got several thousand people to Oakland's, and we had, this is the team, we were auctioning off this amazing little free library that's repurposed from old pallets by a group called I Used to Be a Pallet. And we have a couple other little libraries in the background from Bruce, who's one of our volunteers, who has personally hand-built 100 little free libraries. And that one in the back that says Time to Read is his 101st little free library. We auctioned those off to raise money for the Victoria Literacy Connection. We had music, there was churros, there was a petting zoo. Actually, one of my favorite stories is we get a last-minute call from our insurance company that says, we didn't know you were gonna have a petting zoo. There's different insurance rates for a petting zoo. We said, no, it's a little free library petting zoo. There's 6 little free libraries on a table, and people can open them and take books. And they said, okay, that's fine. It was this moment of panic when the poor insurance underwriters were thinking, there's gonna be llamas there. What are we gonna do? But this is another, excuse me, I was talking politics all last week. This is another exciting thing you can all do today or over the next few weeks. At our 1,000th Little Free Library celebration, we launched the Little Free Library Awards. We realized that with 1,000 libraries in town, we wanted to celebrate them. All of them are special, don't get me wrong, and this one's particularly cute. Mine in the park is most elegant. But we wanted to make sure that we wanted to help celebrate them. So for the next few days, until the 20th, we have the Little Free Library Awards. And you can nominate a little library in your community for one of these categories. We try to keep them fun and jazzy. You can also vote for your favorite. So there's a bunch of pictures up there already. People have nominated their favorite libraries, and you can vote for the ones that you think the best little library with a bird on it, or the cutest little free library. Oh, pause for a few seconds. So, that's the Little Free Library Awards. There's a couple other things I want to mention, which is if you have little libraries in your community, there's things that you can do to help. So one is add books, tidy the collection, take out books that maybe shouldn't be there. We all hate soggy books, and no one wants a mildewy book. So if you're visiting your little library and there's a couple of soggy books, you can recycle them with my permission. And having done this project now for many years and delivered 130,000 books, I'm getting a little bit more, I guess, aggressive with damaged books too. So I used to like retape them and repair them. Now it's like, okay, we've got another 30,000 books, let's recycle that when it's time. Or do some fun art projects with them. But yeah, connect with neighbors in your community to help manage them. There's some neighborhoods I don't visit anymore with my bike trailer because they're so well managed and the neighbors just take care of them. And I always find that tons of fun. So those are, and the thing I love most about little libraries is the stories they help. You probably all have some stories that are Little Free Library related if you live here in Victoria. I always have some of my favorites. It's always the question you ask people is, what is the strangest book you found in your local library? A couple of years ago, my friend Jean, who had I think the 350th Little Free Library, we thought we're gonna throw a picnic to celebrate. We're bring all the Little Free Library people together, and we weren't sure how it was gonna go. These people had never met each other before, so we thought, let's plan lots of activities, and we over-planned activities. We had blind date with a book, we had storytelling, we had bookmark making. We never got to anything. Because Little Free Library people are incredibly gregarious, we're hanging out, we're chatting. But the one part we did get to was share the weirdest book you've ever found in a Little Free Library. And I want to share mine today because it's just delightful. So I'm in Fernwood, doing my rounds, and I find a book called Crafting with Cat Hair. Crafting with cat hair. The premise of this book is how to felt cat fur into things. Now, this had never heard of this before. The first step, of course, is to shave your cat. The second step is to apply ointment to the many wounds and scratches that you've received in that process. The third step is then the felting process, and eventually you're supposed to make like a tiny felt hat that you can put on your cat. And first of all, I don't own a cat. So this was going to be a very sort of like Sisyphean task. But second of all, it was just hilariously delightful. This is a real book. It's by Kaori Tsutaya. It's translated, so this has a lot of popularity behind it. I take it home, I show my partner, we have a chuckle. We don't own a cat, so I drop it off at our local library, grab a coffee, and then I immediately regret dropping off the book because it was so iconically, just so iconically fun. So I go back to my little library 7 minutes later, and it's gone. So then we're at the picnic about 2 years later, and I'm telling the story, and a woman's like, "Sir, did you find that in the little library on the side of Fernwood Road?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, that's mine. I dropped it off." And so we had the entire history of this book as it bounced around town, as people quickly realized that making art from cat fur is maybe not a very good idea. And there's a neighbor of mine that has a very itchy sweater eye, that's all I can say. But there's tons of examples, like the books that you find are fun, the activities that we've done have been fun, and the idea is that once you have a Little Free Library, they can also help expand into other areas of placemaking. In some of the photos that I showed, you'll see benches and little like painted rock exchanges. The Little Free Library is the entry into placemaking, but it very seldom stops there. People keep adding to it, creating vibrant urban spaces to connect with neighbors. I want to talk very briefly about one other form of placemaking while we have some time, because placemaking is so diverse, and I didn't want to just focus on Little Free Libraries. So in our next step, I want to talk very briefly about road murals. This is a passion of mine. As a city councillor, road safety is something I hear about a ton, and people are often looking for ways that they can help improve road safety without coming to talk to council and ask us to spend more money on road safety. And one of the things that you can do is a road mural. This is a beautiful road mandala. There's a bunch of other photos that we'll slowly skim through here. Road murals are murals that are painted on the surface of a road. And it's that simple. But they are very transformative. They help improve road safety, they connect neighbors, they create identity of place, they can be educational, and they ultimately, again, add whimsy and happiness to the urban landscape. You know, this is go back one sec, please. This is a sort of dry urban road in Fernwood, and now it has a beautiful mandala with animals of the Pacific Northwest sharing our local ecosystems with the world on a very dry, boring road. So road murals, as I mentioned, they increase road safety, they connect community, they promote art and placemaking, and they educate. And when I say they increase road safety, this is the one where people are like, it's just paint on the road. But how does that make people safer? Well, there's been some really interesting research done that shows that the bright colors of the road mural remind people there's children around. They also draw people's eyes from the horizon or their phone down to the road in front of them, which is where you want their eyes, like watching the space in front for children running out. And also, there's been some really interesting research done on street trees. And, has anyone here driven from in Saskatchewan? Did you drive too fast in Saskatchewan? Okay, so I did. I'm a prairie boy. I grew up in Calgary. And you're driving from Calgary to Edmonton. There's nothing there. These giant spaces, open roads. You look down at your speedometer and you're going way too fast, right? Because you don't have the spatial movement of things around you showing you how quickly you're going. If you've driven from Alberta to Saskatchewan, there's a moment when the fence posts disappear. And so the fence posts create that sort of movement in the periphery of your face, the periphery of your eyes that show you how fast you're moving. Whereas when there is nothing there, there's no context, you could be going 500 kilometers an hour and the Rockies are slowly getting closer and closer. So street trees and road murals and more enclosed roads create safer roads because they encourage people to slow down and remind them of how fast they're going. So a couple $1,000 or even donated paint can dramatically improve road safety that way. How much, you might ask? Great question. A study in Kitchener found that road murals reduce the 85th percentile speed by 5 kilometers an hour. That's a lot, by the way, in road safety measures. A Bloomberg study found that around 4-kilometer reduction. I'm currently studying a road mural that we put up in Falaise Crescent. The data is a bit weak, so it's kind of back of the envelope stuff. But we found about 2.5 to 3 kilometers an hour. But also, the number of crashes and crashes resulting in injuries are much lower because people are paying attention and they're driving slower. That's what Bloomberg found, was a 50% decrease in crashes between pedestrians and cyclists and vehicles, and a 37% reduction in injuries from crashes. So road murals, just a little bit of paint on the road, increases road safety dramatically. They're also really cost effective. Like, we're talking about a bit of paint. You probably have enough paint in your garage to put a road mural up on your street. Do ask for permission if you can. Obviously, as a city councillor, I can't have you going out there and adding fun whimsy to the neighborhood willy-nilly, but you can get permission to do it. And this is an example. Oh, go back one, please. That's on Collinson. My friend Fig put that in a few years ago. The great thing about this one is you can see how placemaking begets placemaking. Road mural, boom. Community garden. Other community garden, little free library, bench. So you can see how a bunch of things just keep adding and expanding, and Fig just kept building placemaking elements. And this little library is fantastic because the day they went to repaint it in year 3, it started raining, and the whole neighborhood had to get together and hold a tarp over this thing for 2 hours, literally watching paint dry. And that sounds like a bad experience, but it's a community building experience. You now have that shared experience, the shared adventure of trying to keep this beautiful hummingbird mandala dry in a pouring rainstorm. And little road murals can be expanded. So this is one in Vancouver, where every year they expand it by a few meters just to add more color to the street. And there's me celebrating how it's around by the corner of my cousin's place in Vancouver. This is one that we put here in Victoria, Curbside Colors. We partnered with a First Nations artist to decorate a section that had been closed off to vehicles, so it creates a bright space for pedestrians. And this is the last bit I'll show you, which is a road mural I recently put in on Falaise Crescent. So a few years ago, we put this mural in, and it's the first one in Saanich, so far the only one. If you live in Saanich, come see me after class if you want to put a road mural in. We need more enthusiastic road mural leaders. But what we did is we partnered with the neighborhood to find what was the identity of place. When you think of Falaise Crescent, what do you think of? And it turns out that a very rare mountain flower, the yellow montane violet, so this one here, oh, back one, please. That right there was found in the park, and a local artist years ago, Miss Warburton, had celebrated it in her watercolors. So we decided to do a beautiful mandala of yellow montane violets. And here we are. The first time we were very nervous. We sprayed the road down. We had volunteer teams. We had about 60 volunteers. People got really excited about road murals. So we cleaned the road down, chalk it out. We had we had a professional artist do the design, so she consulted with the neighborhood to really come up with the design. And this is Desiree laying it out. And we put brush to pavement. This was the first nerve-wracking moment. We were nervous if it didn't look good or if it didn't work out. But it really turns out, after having done multiple road murals now, you really can't mess these things up. They're on the road, so if the hand doesn't look so good or if the flower's a bit wonky, no one's gonna notice, because it's not like you can see them from space. Or actually you can on Google Street View, which is very exciting. Yeah. And then we got kids involved. So in addition to the larger road mural element, we made little acorns on the side of the road that children could decorate on their own. And this gave some people who may be a little bit too small or enthusiastic to paint the detailed flowers something to do. And also gave them something that they could visit every time they visited the park. So now every time these young people go to the park, they can go check on their acorn and see how it's progressing. Has a car driven over it? Are there leaves on it? And it's another way of connecting them to the project. This isn't just a road mural, it's a road mural they helped paint, and they can visit every time they go to the park. And there we are at the end of the day, done. It was a lot of work. That's Desiree, passed out on the pavement. And now this road mural, it's just exterior latex paint. It's not that complicated. It wasn't as complicated to do. We were nervous at first, but we got there in the end. It's just white underpaint that you normally paint your house with. And I think this may or may not work as a video. Maybe not. I'm not the tech guy here, so I'm not a very technologically person. This is our time lapse. It may or may not work. But basically, you can kind of see the overall road mural there, a couple large flowers, a bunch of smaller flowers. After 2 years, we were monitoring it, and it actually held up pretty well. It's not a very busy road. Road murals do not work on incredibly busy roads. Does anyone here remember the puzzle piece crosswalk downtown? Yes. That wore out in like 3 weeks. It was just because you have 10,000 cars a day, it doesn't work. It's not worth it. And you also want to make sure that the road needs traffic calming. So if it's a quiet cul-de-sac, by all means, put in a road mural, but it may or may not be seen by a lot of people. So you kind of want a road with mid amount of traffic that needs traffic calming and needs some vibrancy. After 2 years, we repainted it and added those beautiful purple camas flowers, again, another native wildflower. And then after another year, we were like, oh, it could use a little bit of a refresh. We added the flowering currants around the mural as well. What happened was we talked to the neighbors after 1 year. We said, hey, how do you guys feel about this? And we were worried that they might want us to take it away or remove it. And they said, no, we love it. It's just a lot of yellow. Can we add more colors? That's why we ended up adding the camas and the currants. We thought more color is better. And so every year we added a new native wildflower. And you can see here, this is one of our recent repaint. You can see the older yellow with the more vibrant yellow. So it does need a bit of a top-up every 1 or 2 years. The great thing about that, though, is the repainting party is a community event that builds more community. So in a sense, it's one of those projects that keeps on giving. Every year you have to decide if you want to keep it there. If you want to keep it there, you have to repaint it. You have to get the neighbors together and build more community. And just a few more photos of our road mural. I will say for people with bad knees and backs, like myself, as far as the knee department goes, we have a good supervisory role and we can mix paint. Sometimes it's good to get some young volunteers to be squatting down in the sun on the hot pavement, adding elements. And there's the team. As you can see, it's a diverse crowd of people, and it only really took us 5 or 6 hours to put in the road mural. And it's one of those things which lasts for years. You can see it from Google satellite views. You can see it every day you drive past the park. And it's another example of a larger placemaking project, not only how they can help improve road safety, but how they can build community and bring people together. That's a lot of content on Little Free Libraries and placemaking and road murals. I'll leave it at that, but I can talk about this stuff till the cows come home. And thank you so much for listening. And hopefully, your homework is to go visit a Little Free Library in your community sometime in the next couple of days. And thank you very much.